Hey YouTube, Carrot Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Toon Yugioh deck profile for October 2023. Been wanting to update the Toon deck for a good while now. I always have the deck almost basically pre-constructed and ready to go. Just wanted to make a couple changes to the deck since the last update. We haven't really gotten any new Toon cards, but I don't believe I've done an update since the Crystal Revenge booster set, where a good amount of the Toon cards were more, readily available. I wouldn't say, easy on the price for the cards, but still, most recent reprint, meaning more easily for people to pick up the cards if they are to get that set. And you never know, we might get some newer Toon cards in the future as well. But also comment down below what Toon monsters you'd like to see, because, we've only really stuck to the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX in the original series for a good majority of the Toon monsters, but some 5Ds and Zexal cards would definitely be awesome for Toon support as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Toon monsters, I'm running 2 copies of Toon Blackluster Soldier. It cannot be normal summon or set, must be special summon from your hand by tributing Toon monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal 8 or more while you control Toon World and your opponent controls no Toon monsters. This card can attack directly, and once per turn, if you control Toon World, you can target 1 card in the field and banish it. Also, this card can attack the turn this card was activated, but very similar to Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the beginning. I even considered running a 3rd copy of this card. If you were to do so, you could always drop down the copy of Toon Harpy Lady that I'm running, just because then you have more tribute fodder in your hand to get out probably one of the best Toon monsters in the deck in general. Having a attack directly play, but also just being able to banish an opponent's monster finally gives Toons an answer to getting rid of cards on the field as well, and an easy special summon also. I also run 2 copies of Red Eyes Toon Dragon. With this card, it cannot attack on the turn summon while you control Toon World and your opponent controls no Toons. It can attack directly, and once per turn you can special summon 1 Toon monster from your hand except for Red Eyes Toon Dragon, ignoring its summoning condition. So with this, you have access to some of your other Toon monsters in the deck. I also like this card because it can also be summoned quite easily with Toon Flip Page. With this card, just being able to summon out that monster onto the field as one of the 3 revealed monsters, and then just to extend more of your summons as well, just being able to special summon another Toon monster, having the option for that monster in the form of Toon Dark Magician. It cannot attack the turn summon while you control Toon World. It can attack directly and your opponent doesn't control a Toon monster. You can discard 1 Toon card to activate one of these effects. You can special summon a Toon monster from your deck except for Toon Dark Magician, ignoring its summoning conditions, or you can add 1 Toon spell directly from your deck to your hand. So search power, depending on whatever you want. It is a risk because you will be at the mercy of Ash Blossom with that discard, but there are some other answers in the spell lineup to help prevent some of the loss you would have gotten from the discard off of Toon Dark Magician, since this is most likely one of the cards to be hit by your opponent's hand traps to stop any of your extension of your Toon plays. I also run the 1 copy of Toon Cyber Dragon, having the same card effects of Cyber Dragon, just being able to special summon if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters. And also, with this card, being able to attack your opponent directly if they do not control a Toon monster, except it can attack on the turn it's summoned, but it gives you more tribute fodder as well for some of your other Toons. Potentially, if you also wanted to run Toon Dark Magician Girl, it could be one of the cards that you can just special summon out, and then summon the Toon Dark Magician Girl, which can then attack on the turn it's summoned. For some of the higher numbers for the Toon monsters, I also run 3 copies of Toon Harpy Lady. It cannot attack the turn summon. If you control Toon World, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then, if you control another Toon monster, you can destroy 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls. You can only use this effect of Toon Harpy Lady once per turn, and while you control Toon World and your opponent doesn't control a Toon monster, it can attack directly. Pretty standard for the Toon effects, but the destruction of an opponent's spell and trap definitely does give us answers for the back rows, since Blackluster Soldier can help with the monsters. You can rely on Toon Harpy Lady for the destruction of their spell and traps. And for the last of the Toon monsters that I run, 2 copy of Toon Masked Sorcerer. Cannot attack the turn summon. If Toon Worlds on the field is destroyed, destroy this card. And while you control Toon World, your opponent controls no Toon monsters. It can attack directly, and when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, draw a card. So just more draw consistency, which helps with the Toon Masked Sorcerer. And you can use other cards in the deck to protect it on the field, like your Toon Kingdom also. Now, for the other Toon monsters that I wasn't running in the build, if you wanted to run them, you could just drop some of your your hand trap lineup, which we are running the 3 copies of Ash Blossom and the 3 copies of Effect Veiler for our hand traps in the deck, just giving us more of a shutdown of our opponent's plays on top of being able to utilize our Toon monsters, but still have an added backup to anything that our opponent may try to do on their turn. But if you wanted to run other Toon monsters like Toon Gemini Elf, additional copies of Toon Dark Magician, you can just reduce the numbers of your hand traps and add more of those specific monsters into the deck. That is it for the main deck monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 copies of Toon Kingdom. This card counts as Toon World. When it's activated, you banish 3 cards from the top of your deck face down. Its name becomes Toon World while in the field zone. Your opponent cannot target Toon monsters you control with card effects. If a Toon monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish 1 card from the top of your deck face down for each of those monsters instead. So it is your protection for your Toon monsters on the field. Also, just being able to have them be on the field. And also, if your opponent were to try and get rid of them, just banishing 1 card from the top of your deck is enough to save those Toon monsters for each one that you'd want to keep alive for the following turn to be able to attack into your opponent directly. More of the search power in the deck. Also, since we're running lower numbers for the Toons, 3 copies of Toon Table of Contents. You add 1 Toon card from your deck to your hand. It's not a once per turn, so if you have multiple Toon Table of Contents in your hand, all the easier to search and add depending on which ones you want to use and make use of in your hand. Just a Toon card as well, so you can also search along with the monsters any of your spells and traps also, which we are also running 3 copies of Toon Page Flip with this quick play spell. If you control Toon World, reveal 3 Toon monsters with different names from your deck. Your opponent randomly picks 1 for you to special summon, ignoring its summoning conditions. Also shuffle the rest into your deck. You can only use and activate 1 Toon Page Flip per turn. So you reveal 3 Toon monsters, but just depending on the ones you go for, you can reveal the Toon Blackluster Soldier, Toon Red Eyes, and the Toon Dark Magician just like that. And whichever one you get, you're getting a pretty powerful boss monster that can just extend your plays even more for your Toon monsters in the deck. I also run the 3 copies of Comic Hand. While not having Toon in its name, still very, very useful. If you control Toon World, equip to an opponent's monster, take control of it, and it is treated as a Toon monster. If your opponent controls no Toon monsters, it can also attack your opponent directly. Just being able to take one of your own opponent's monsters and attack them with it, depending on the monster, could be pretty scary for your opponent as well. Just for the fact that you equip onto that monster and then can transform them into a Toon, and there are a good amount of boss monsters that your opponent may have that they would not want to fall into your hands. For the other 3 ofs in the deck, finishing off with 3 copies of Toon Bookmark. These cards are just way too good not to run at 3. You have cards that can take your opponent's cards, search power, setup, you name it. With the last one, Toon Bookmark, just adding 1 Toon World or 1 card that mentions it from your deck to your hand, except for Toon Bookmark. And if Toon World you control will be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So double protection for your Toon World on the field, on top of also just being able to search out a good majority of the deck also. For our other spells, I run the 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. I really do like running this card in the deck just because if we invest in plays like our Toon Dark Magician and our opponent Ash Blossoms, we can at least use this card to make up for some of the cards we used for Toon Dark Magician by at least being able to draw 2 more cards or take away one of our opponent's resources. And the last of the spells being 1 Terraforming to search out the Toon Kingdoms and the 1 Call by the Grave. Once again, this is just used to prevent our opponent from investing in any of their hand traps to stop our Toon special summons or searches. And then for the traps, I run 2 copies of Toon Terror. When a spell, trap card, or monster effect is activated while you control both Toon World and a Toon monster, negate the activation and destroy that card. So just a great counter trap to make use of in the deck by having the means of your basic setup on the field for your Toon monsters. And lastly, 2 copies of Toon Mask. Now, I didn't run Toon Briefcase. I just couldn't find where I put my last copy of it. So if you want to run Toon Briefcase, you can always just replace 1 copy of Toon Mask with a copy of that card. You target a face-up monster your opponent controls, special summon 1 Toon monster from your hand or deck, whose level is less than or equal to the level or rank of that monster, ignoring its special summon conditions. So as long as your opponent has a high-level monster or exceeds monster, you can summon out one of your Toon monsters using this card, while you'd use Toon Briefcase to shuffle back one of their resources. Once again, you can just take out one of the Toon Masks for a Toon Briefcase. These cards are searchable with other cards in the deck, so you really only need the 1 of copies. Do Toon Terrors, just so you can have the multiple counter trap options to search out within a a turn and stop an opponent's card effect each turn also. For the extra deck, I'm running a pretty generic extra deck. There's really nothing that focuses too much on tunes, but the 1 copy of Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, the 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Barricade Board Blocker, 1 IP Masquerena, and the 1 Sky Striker Ace Azalea for the destruction plays that this card can help with. And for the higher link monsters, 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, and the 1 Aplo. So you don't go into the higher links as often, but I like to have them in here as options to go into. With the last monsters being the Xyz lineup, 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, 1 Exciton Knight, 1 Baguska, and also 1 number 11 Big Eye, 1 number 76 Harmonizing Gradiel, and the 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus. Because when you can go into cards like Toon Red Eyes and Toon Dark Magician, that just gives you more and more plays to then be able to overlay with those monsters also. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, when it comes to the Toon deck, there's really not a lot of combos aside from the Special Summon and Search power that I've already described that you can do with Toon Red Eyes and Toon Dark Magician. And then otherwise, it just comes down to playing around what your opponent's play style is, and then utilizing these specific Toon monsters, whether they be the Vanish power of your Toon Blackluster Soldier, taking your opponent's own monsters, depending on that monster will determine what you use that monster for, whether it be an extra deck summon or just to use it for a, play against your opponent, whether it be cards like Mirror Jade or even cards like Boral Sword. If you can take those monsters with your Comic Hand, all the better. Special summoning out specific monsters, making your opponent choose from 3 random ones, can give you a Toon Mass Sorcerer on the field to then hit your opponent with Draw Power or Destruction Power with Toon Harpy Lady. It all comes down just to what you want to summon on the field and make use of these cards against your opponent. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.